Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We are going to continue our podcast today with the rest of sort of the Premier League roundup. And the first game we're going to cover now is Newcastle 5, Aston Villa 1. High-scoring game between two teams that finished the season very, very well last year. I think most of us, Mac, would have expected a closer game between these two, but it really showed there was really one team that was up for it, and then another team that was just making stubborn mistakes after mistake after mistake. What were your takes on this game?
I think overall, definitely very happy for Newcastle. You can see their offensive arsenal has improved overall of what they're able to do in terms of having Anthony Gordon out on the wing, bringing Harvey Barnes. Instead of, it felt like a lot of times last year, it was both Callum Wilson and Isak both had to play for goals to come. So it seems like they have more flexibility up top. It's great to see Sandro Tonali be able to get on the score sheet and have a great game. But I think you kind of highlighted there. There's so many positives you could take for Newcastle, but I blame a lot for Aston Villa of how they managed this game, because they played with a very, very high line with a team that arguably last year didn't have a great ability to score goals by breaking down teams through like progressive passing, be able to kind of have slow build-up play, by giving them an easy outlet if they're able to time the runs correctly, on top of having simple, easy mistakes. One that stood out to me most was probably a new signing, I think, Pau Torres, when he was like stepping into the midfield. He had just come on, I think, for Mings at that point, but steps in, gets nutmegged, doesn't take man or ball, and then it's like a 5-on-3 in a counter-attack afterwards, and I think that's the time that Harvey Barnes ended up scoring. So, which was their fifth goal, if I remember correctly. So I think that a lot of positives for Newcastle there. But for me, to be honest, even though I'm very happy with how they played, the new signings, the impact that they had, and Eddie Howe getting his team starting the season off with a good result, I was even more disappointed with Aston Villa and Unai Emery's choices. I think that they'll turn it around, of course. Good for them to see Diaby to get on the score sheet, their new signing. But I think that without Benzia, who was a key player on their run for last year, at the end of last year, they're in a tough spot, and they need to rebound quickly, because this was not the way that you want to start the season. It's just one game, but if you're asking me to overreact, I'm pulling the fire alarm with Aston Villa. That was a very scary result. It's one game, I'm not going to overreact, but like that was a very scary game to watch.
Exactly. When the score hit higher than 3 goals, I'm like, oh, is this a new Newcastle team that we're watching? Because last year they weren't a team that would score huge amount of goals. But Gio, has something switched with this Newcastle team, or what do you think happened with this result?
Obviously, things are rolling, but we've seen this Newcastle team hit slumps. I don't want to jump the gun and say they are a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely, based on their starting 11. Their starting 11 is fantastic. The addition of Tonali, like I said, even in preseason, he was making great runs, controlling the ball very well, dictating pace of the game, threading needles. He was really doing it all. And then obviously, first game in, getting a goal on the score sheet was huge. But will I be like Mac and hit the panic button? No, I think it's an easy adjustment. I think he needs to play the tactics better against certain teams. And again, this Newcastle team is pacey. Especially with Anthony Gordon playing, Isak, all those guys love space and love pace, and they will burn you. And that's exactly what happened here. You give them a little too much space, a ball over. Any day of the week, I'm picking Isak. Any day of the week, I'm picking Gordon over a Pau Torres. There's no shot. That foot race is over. It is over before it even began. So, definitely disappointed in Villa, as we picked them as our dark horse team. Like a lot of us are hoping that they finish quite a bit higher than they did last year. But no, I don't think it's too much worry. Again, first game of the season, Unai Emery will change things and adjust strategically like he has in the past. So, yeah, nothing to worry about in my book.
Okay, well, Gio's a little bit more optimistic for Villa, and that's a good thing to sort of see from the Villa side. One player that I was very high on, though, for this game at the very least, of course, Alex Isak with his finish for, I think, the third Newcastle goal.
Yeah.
Fantastic work. Of course, it comes off of a defensive mistake by Konza, but just the awareness, speed of thought, and composure to, if you look at it in live time, it's literally a second and a half when he makes a decision to take a touch and then just chip it over and outcoming Martinez. It may look very simple, but of course, these guys make it look very simple. And he is going to be, I think, very, very big for Newcastle this season, especially when those droughts are happening. If they continue to happen this year, which we kind of think about, Mac, when we sort of discussed how will they need to perform, especially early in the season, considering there is Champions League. They're going to want to get as many points on the board as possible, because once those Champions League games come through, the rotation within the squad is not as deep, I believe, as Eddie Howe would want to be. And so we'll definitely see if they can continue with that strong start that they had. But all signs are there that sort of they should be, feeling good about themselves. A team like Newcastle at home is going to be, again, one of those teams that any rival fans are going to dread seeing their team go away there. And especially with the new rules, there's going to be at least 10 minutes of added time in each half for those games. But yeah, Newcastle with a great win at home to start off the season. We're going to move on now to Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest. Great result there for Arsenal, Mac, to start the season off. What can you tell us about this game from your point of view?
I think it was very interesting tactically, because you could see what Arteta was thinking, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he divulges and splits time between, okay, against the bigger teams, we're going to play one way. Against the teams that we're not going to score, have a lot of possession, we're going to try to play a different way. And by this example, in this game against Nottingham Forest, they did the latter. Because what ended up happening is Partey started as a right back, but really it was very similar to what John Stones would do last year for Man City, where he would end up actually tucking into midfield. As soon as Arsenal came into possession, he went straight into midfield. What that did is isolated Saka in a one-on-one space a lot of the time, where he was able to continuously go at the left wing back for Nottingham Forest and be able to potentially expose them. The downside of course, is I think Partey struggles more in a defensive aspect out wide in space. And he was exposed himself in a couple different situations, especially later on in the game when Nottingham Forest came back in. So it'll be very interesting, because by doing this, it allows Havertz to be able to play in midfield. You could put, as well as having a striker up top. So you're overloading the midfield. You're potentially choking off a counterattack that can come from an opposing team. But it is very a risky football. Let's say, for example, last year we were talking, and we were always kind of hyping up like a Crystal Palace team with Zaha, and you just kind of put him in that position and see if you can isolate against a wing back. This is Zaha would be licking his lips looking at this Arsenal team. He's like, oh, that 2 counterattacks I have, easy done. So I think that Arsenal, it'll be interesting how they continue to evolve. Was this a one-up? Because what ended up happening as a subsequent result of Partey playing as a right back, it actually shifted Gabriel, who had played every single game for Arsenal last season in the Premier League, didn't end up starting. So it'll be very interesting to see how this does evolve, and how this split, I feel like, as I said, between the bigger teams, which just shows an example for how they played in the Community Shield, where they kept more of a similar formation as they played previously, and Havertz played as the 9, versus a team that, oh, we're going to have 70% possession in the first 20 minutes. We can get 2 good goals. Aside from the tactic point, Saka is the boy. That is the guy. That is the man that is going to win the PFA Player of the Year. We said this at the beginning of the season. He showed it in that first game, where, again, the reason why Arsenal used all their resources and their whole game plan was to isolate him is he couldn't be stopped. One-on-one situations like that, he can really pick his poison. He can go right, he can go left, and if you allow him to go left, kind of like Arjen Robben, you can't stop him. It was a great goal. Good to see him getting it, because last season he started off not so great. I think he didn't score until like his 7th game, something like that, into last season against, it was at Manchester United. I remember the goal very fondly. I don't know if you do, but overall, it's nice to see him getting an early goal like that in the season, to see how he can be able to carry on. And I think the further they go into the season, the more and more kind of renown he'll gain, not just from Arsenal fans that I know people like to make fun of, that they call him the star boy and stuff like that, but more recognition outside the Premier League as well, of how good of a player he's becoming at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, new season, same Saka. It might be a change of formation from Arteta, but that's something that someone you can definitely bank on. And we mentioned it a little bit earlier with Kane leaving. I think this is now the time for Saka to be the English face of the league moving forward, and could be for the next few years at the very least. Just from his star power, the goal that he scored, fantastic strike, very little backlift and kind of looking off balance, and keeper had no chance at all for that. Of course, a notable mention to our boy Gio and Nketiah getting a goal as well.
You didn't shut him out, Max. You did not shut him out. I was gonna bring that up.
He should have passed the Odegaard.
Okay.
So Gio, I guess what were your takes? Are you impressed with the Arsenal win? Almost 80% possession, kind of what we expected. But they didn't win by such a huge margin. I guess some people may feel, I guess, a little bit ways of that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, goals are important, but goals don't really always dictate or show how well you played in terms of owning the ball, dominating the game, playing your way. They dictated the game the entire way through, except for that counterattack goal. I think they got a little too happy in trying to add another goal to put a stamp on the victory. Pressing high, and Anthony Elanga took advantage of that space. Shouts out Anthony Elanga.
Yes, sir.
I don't miss you. I don't miss you, but no, they dominated the game through and through. And I think this is how ideally Arteta would like to play, in high possession. Obviously, you have the midfielders for it now. Let's use it. And even defenders putting in that extra effort. That second goal, Saliba was pressing in the corner to create that chance, and playing and having a center back being able to play, quick and short passes around an opponent, with Saka, with Partey, just puts you at that much of an advantage. And then obviously Starboy Saka, what a left foot! You can only dream of putting a ball that perfect in game, and he just does it so effortlessly. So great start to Arsenal. Obviously against Nottingham Forest, again, many new faces on the squad, so they don't know who the starting 11 is ever. No, but that doesn't take away from how well they played, this week. But yeah, I think there's more to come, and teams need to figure a way out how to get the ball away from them.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be one of the tougher tasks this season for all Premier League teams. Great start off though for Arsenal, and they're chasing the title for this year. So moving on, of course, now to the current Premier League holders, title holders. That's Man City. They did get a 3-0 win away at Burnley. But Mac, I'm not sure if you were to catch any of this game, but it didn't look as comfortable as the 3-0 scoreline dictates. Like Gio said, goals don't always dictate everything. This game, I think, definitely fits that description. What were your thoughts, Mac?
I think that it was definitely concerning in terms of, for me, again, this early season, City, at these last couple of years, haven't started the season great, and they generally go on kind of a mid to late season run of form. But this wasn't nowhere near close in terms of City flying, playing at their best, at peak. I would say, in terms of, you're asking me capacity, they were playing at like 60%, it felt like. And on top of that, with Kevin De Bruyne being injured, it just seemed like, okay, this looks a little bit shaky right now. Pep is smart enough to be able to fix things. They definitely have enough money to be able to bring in players to help replenish the squad, because that's definitely needed. But even with that said, they still won 3-0, so you have to be able to give them credit there. Haaland's only 34 goals away from breaking his new goal record. Again, he's going to be chasing that down. He was very excited to make a couple, and it was disappointing, in fact, not to score a couple more. So I think that there is still a lot of drive in this team to still be successful. Again, for me, when you're looking at the rotations that they brought on towards the end of the game, because they had to bring Kovacic on early in the game for KDB, who we can assume is going to be out for a couple of weeks. That leaves their midfield subs in terms of the center of the midfield. It's Calvin Phillips, who I forget sometimes that he's a City player. And aside, when I remember the transfer fee, that's about it. And James McAtee, which if you ask me to picking him out of a lineup, like in terms of, let's say, who committed what murder, I don't know who that is. I don't. Your guess is as good as mine. So I think that they need reinforcements there desperately. It'll be interesting what changes they do bring, but it's great to see them get this result. But and they won 3-0. Normally, again, like great position, you would look at that's great. But I have so many questions of how this team's going to shake out, and they only have a couple more weeks until the transfer window closes for them to settle team. And even if they do, it's a pet team. It's generally a year for a player to get adjusted to it. So they're going to be on a short string and a short timeline to be able to figure things out. So they need to, I definitely think, shape it up and look to see what they can do to kind of replenish the squad.
Great. So what I'm hearing is Pep is going to be on the market for a defensive midfield as well. So of course now Liverpool are looking, and it's going to be all teams bidding. But no, of course, great takeaway from this game. The result is great for City, but against a team like Burnley, when they choose to go forward and attack you, they look like an exciting new team in the Premier League. And much like Nottingham Forest, if they can link up play in those situations where City are kind of left exposed in the back, we might be seeing some more goals with a more established striker, which Burnley, I think this game was really calling out for. And so we'll definitely see how Burnley do. I think they'll be exciting for this upcoming season. But Gio, inevitable, Haaland is going to get us a couple of goals. He was taken off as well in this game, which, you know, I'm sure he's sort of upset about not getting the hat trick. And then, of course, we saw the scenes of him at halftime. Pep was talking to him, but talk us through some of his classy finishing in this game.
Oof. He's an out and out striker. He puts the ball in the magnet, and he has a magnet on his boot. So, I mean, first goal, obviously, coming towards the ball is very important. Not standing and waiting for it. You know, he's out there chasing it. You know, much stronger than the defender who was marking him. Just simply overpowered him. And then the second one shows the touch of a striker. You know, getting that ball to bend just enough so that it hits the crossbar and dips downwards. Just shows that, you know, yes, we don't give him enough credit for his fine touches and his technical ability, because he likes to play a certain way, and he's so advantageous when he does play that way. But no, he's definitely been working on his game and his touch, and those two goals kind of show it, that he's more to it, and as he gets more veteran and more well-rounded as a player, his touch is only going to improve, and it's only going to get scarier.
Yeah, I mean, 38 goals in the Premier League last year, 30 something,
35.
No, it wasn't 36. Because he crossed out the number on his boot because it said 35 on his boot. No. And then he broke the record and he instantly crossed it out and he wrote 36 on it. But I just like to add, I know I called it, but damn,
36.
KDB got injured quick. Yeah, damn,
Yeah.
KDB got injured quick. Like,
and that
brother, I know I called it, but like, I didn't expect the first game called it. But no, that only goes to show there will be more injuries to come. And who's to say, you know, this isn't a reoccurring injury for KDB? God forbid, because I want to see great football. But yeah, like we said, this isn't the same Man City team. They got worse in a sense. So, you know, does this kind of put, again, like Max said, kind of Pep's backs against the wall? Do I need to shell out more money right now? Which I think they're more than able to. But look how long it took Jack Grealish to get into that Pep system and get into it fluidly. So it's going to take time. So if they are going to sign someone, they need to sign them now to hopefully, you know, so they can utilize them if they need to, you know, in Champions League or Cup competitions. They need them, and they need them quick. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting race to the transfer window, but no, I think City needs it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a now sort of a move of desperation, and really will tell, can he firstly identify a target that will fit a system, I guess, within the budget as well, and how quickly can he adapt that player to his system or change the system to fit the players that he does have at the end of the window. So a lot to come from City and as well the other teams that we spoke about just now. And so I guess to round off the podcast, how do you think? I guess how do you both individually feel about all the teams that we just spoke about? Newcastle, Arsenal, Man City. In the first week, is it sort of what we expected? I mean, I didn't expect Newcastle to take Aston Villa by storm that way in the first game, but pretty comprehensive wins for Arsenal and Man City, and it's really what we expect from them. Really, I think they're going to be the two teams that go to the wire this season. Not too surprised, even though it is the first game of the season. What about yourself, Mac? Anything surprise you or stand out, or that you want to change in your sort of pre-season predictions from these teams we just spoke about?
Yeah, I think it's one game. You don't want to overreact to anything. But if I was going to, again, I would cut Newcastle. I would cut Aston Villa down for sure. And definitely, again, who would I put above them though? Tottenham, I don't have much great confidence in. Chelsea, I don't have much great confidence in. So maybe who knows? Again, it's too soon to say. I think though, I definitely undersold. If you're asking me about any of my predictions, undersold Brighton. Again, they were playing Luton, right? Which it's Luton. I don't know what Luton is. I'll be honest with you, but they were playing it, and they absolutely destroyed them. For me, a standout player for them was one of their new signings, Mahmoud Dahoud. Can you give him I think from Dortmund, if I remember correctly. He's 27, so he's in prime years of his football, and he's the younger defensive midfielder that played because he played alongside James Milner, which anyone's younger than James Milner. But the key part being is that he played well in his first game. They was able to dominate possession, able to help set up a goal as well. So I think that this team, they're just able to consistently churn out players. Evan Ferguson got on the score sheet. Matoma looked phenomenal. They're able to just recycle it. And I don't understand. Of everything that was stolen by Chelsea from Brighton, they just didn't hire the scouts. Why? You don't need Potter. You need the scouts. That's who knows. That's who got the business. That's who's doing their job. So for me, again, I think that team, I definitely undersold a little bit. Again, I'm going to reiterate, they played Luton. So don't want to draw too many conclusions from that type of game, considering literally one of Luton's players, I think he's the one that actually came all the way down from non-league football, if I remember correctly. He literally teed up a volley for one of the Brighton players to end up scoring. So it's not a great look, but again, Premier League opposition still coming up with that type of performance. Great to see. And they are still a team that has a lot of threat, even though, as Roberto De Zerbi was saying, I don't know who Caicedo is anymore, and they're ready to move on and be successful right away.
One player that has been linked with a move away in that sense, but did feature for his team. Something that stood out to me is West Ham United's new number 10, Lucas Paquetá. Did not realize that he was the new number 10, but will he be there for much longer? That's a question that I just want to bring up so that I could quickly transition to, of course, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, Jared Bowen's amazing strike. You guys have to watch it if you have some time. He's just going to continue and be big for them because they have not a lot going forward. And if Paquetá leaves as well, he's going to be carrying a lot on his shoulders. On the flip side, Agard and Zuma started as the two center backs, and they kept getting beat with pace. You're adding Harry Maguire into that back three. Not a lot of great pace there, so that's going to be another team that might struggle against pacey teams. But just my take in sort of this opening weekend. Lastly, but not least, Gio, what about yourself?
That's what I call stonewall defending right there. Good luck, West Ham.
Hey, leave John Stones out of this. You disrespectful fuck.
But to be quite honest, just to touch back on the City thing, I will. Unfortunately, he's already in the Saudi league, but I would have loved to have seen Man City pillage Lazio for Milinko Savic. I think he would have been a great fit for that Pep system. But unfortunately, he's obviously raking in that dough in other countries of the world. Can't blame him. Hey, don't blame you at all. Get your bag. Get your bag. Hey, when you're retired, it's you and your money. So, hey, do you. But honestly, I still have to give credit where credit is due. Poch and Chelsea, I think, just look good. But it's the fact that it's the first game of the season. It's against Liverpool. it's at home. The pressure is there for you to put out a performance for your home fans who you have disappointed maybe threefold, tenfold last year. Like it felt like 3 seasons in one last year. So for them to come out there and not fold after the first Diaz goal was huge. And then obviously, luck being on the side, offside here and there, goals get called back. But again, to escape with a point and to put out a quite decent performance, and for Enzo to show the fans, we're good. We just need one or two more guys until we can hold our own. Now, obviously with Caicedo about to come into the team, what is that? Where does that leave a player like Conor Gallagher? I think there's still a lot up in the air for that. But yeah, I think Chelsea deserves credit this weekend. But yeah, no, they're just not the same Chelsea team that we're used to seeing last. There's that fight in them, and I think.
Sorry, just to quickly jump in.
And I think,
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. My bad. Apologies.
And I think Poch has a lot to do with it. Apart from the players that they have, Poch just obviously, I think, a far better manager than Graham Potter. He's coached on bigger clubs, arguably, not arguably, Tottenham, who knows? But he's coached better players, and he's obviously known how to get the best out of not so great players, bringing a team like Tottenham to a Champions League final, and now you're giving him the tools to do much more. I think is a very good look. So cheers to Chelsea.
I was just going to say, as you said earlier, it felt like 3 seasons into one. It's because they had 3 managers in one season. Yeah, that was it.
There you go.
Regardless, be that as it may, those few moments that we saw from Chelsea in the opening weekend, of course, there are some positives to take, and if they can click midway through the season or as soon as possible, it'll be exciting to see if they can prove us wrong and fly up the table. So something to keep an eye on. But of course, guys, this concludes our podcast for today. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at @houseof_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, get in touch with us via email as well, houseoffooty@hotmail.com. The next time you hear from us will be Thursday when we preview the second week of the Premier League. But until then, thank you, Mac, for joining us.
Peace out. Love the Prem is back.
Thank you, Gio.
Man U, top of the table, Monday night.
Let's go. See you guys soon.